how now we're starting to see a lot of tech YouTubers reacting to the ridiculousness that is the M1 iPad Air, saying, you know, what is the point of the M1 iPad Pro? And this is the sentiment that I had on launch day, or at least announcement day, and that was met with a lot of pushback in the comment section. And I'm going to talk about these comments generally, but most of it was listing the specs. And I've used the iPad Air, the M1 iPad 11-inch and the 12.9-inch, so I know that there's a difference in specifications, but that wasn't the point. The point is experience, right? What can you actually do on the Pro that you can't do on the Air anymore? Obviously, there are big differences like the 12.9-inch screen or 120 hertz refresh rate. None of these things actually change the way you experience iPad. Now, the 120 hertz refresh rate, arguably, yeah, but if you haven't used it before, you're not going to miss it. Even MKBHD's video, Renee Ritchie put out a video, I'll put links down to those, but they reiterate a lot of the same sentiment. Why do we love Apple devices so much? It's not because they have the best specs or the biggest, beefiest processors, even though now they're starting to. It is because of the experience that we have on these iPads. And for the longest time, all iPads were essentially the same experience. It was the same chip for the most part, besides the X series chips that were in the higher end iPads versus what you would get like in a regular iPad. But for the first time with M1 in the iPad Pros, they could now, not in addition to the longevity, because these things could be used for at least the next 5 years, especially at the growth rate of iPad OS. But you were also getting, I did a video on multitasking for the iPad Pro and how I could run up to 4 applications simultaneously, buttery smooth. And while you could run 4 apps on the Air or lesser tier iPad, it was almost unusable because of the lag and things like that. So that was an instance where you could actually do something on the Pro that you could not do on any other iPad. But now that they've taken the M1 chip and put it right into the Air, there really is no difference, especially for people who, in terms of experience, I know the quad speakers, I know the Thunderbolt, all those things, but they just make the same thing a little better, but not anything entirely new that you can't do on the other ones. If you look at the Air now, it has the same camera as the Pro on front and back. Not as many cameras, but the primary camera is the same on the Air. You've got the same chip. In terms of that versus the 11-inch, even the same chassis, like the physical aspects aesthetically are the same. And some people were saying, and I do want to address this as well, that maybe it's clocked higher in the Pros than in the Air. There's no evidence to support this, even on the website, especially with the 2 smaller versions of 10.9 versus 11-inch. The chassis is essentially the same, even to the point of using the same cases and peripherals with those iPads. So there's no reason for thermal throttling or any kind of downclocking the speed of the M1 in those devices. We've seen the M1 is an extremely versatile chip, being put in various form factors, from the iMac to Mac Mini to iPad, and now even the iPad Air. So this is what I'm saying. It's not a spec conversation. Dig a little bit deeper and you'll see that the experience is essentially the same. And that is why I made my video nearly an hour long on launch day about how the iPad Air killed the iPad Pro. And you could say, okay, well, it's only for a short amount of time, right? In a few months, the iPad Pro will get a new chip. But we're not even taking advantage of the M1 on iPad OS. So I don't really care if they put an M2 in the iPad Pro. There's not enough to use with this chip where it would be any different of an experience, even from maybe the 2020 iPad Pro and later. So it's just a quick video. I wanted to respond because it seems like the iPad Air M1 is getting a lot of attention now, and this was something that I said, hey, this is a problem on launch day. So thanks so much for watching. Subscribe, click the bell.